Buenos dias, Gunners Collective TV. Back at it. You already know. Like a motherfucking trap addict. Bye. In fact, let's get to it. Welcome back to Gunners Collective TV, man. I appreciate all the support. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Ding! Put your notification bell on all so that way you're directed in the direction of the dope content that I'm kicking, and I'm very humbled by the support. So, hood vlogs. Let's talk about them, right? Wow. Recently, I've been seeing a lot of hood vlogs, and I'm seeing a particular channel. I'm not even going to mention the channel, but there's an individual that is being allowed to go into neighborhoods and barrios in Southern California. And I've even seen it happen in Northern California. That would have never happened a long time ago. I understand, times have changed and I don't know, when it comes to some of the things I'm seeing, I'm very skeptical on how it's all going to play out and what it's all about. Now, I know it's intriguing and inviting to, look into some of these neighborhoods and see how the different characteristics are and how they act in these barrios, compared to what you believe in your mind. There's a lot of people that are intrigued by seeing different neighborhoods and the politics and the structure and the gang lifestyle and just some of the hood stores and things. It's intriguing. I sit down, I watch it. I'm like, wow, but every barrio I see, they look pretty much similar. It's pretty much the same thing. It's not what you expect in your mind. In your mind, you expect tore up, graffiti, prostitutes on every corner, a bunch of games being played, a bunch of people trying to fucking get over on other people. But that's not what we're seeing here. What we're seeing is a lot of youngsters walking around, boasting and bragging about the neighborhood they grew up in and how they're all primera, they're all number one, they're all harder than the next barrio. And that's having pride in your city, having pride in your neighborhood, having pride in where you're from. But at the end of the day, really, what is it all about? What is that content all about, these hood vlogs? Back in the 90s, when I was gangbanging and I was really in the mix, we were taught as norteños to keep our fucking mouths shut, to not be seen on camera, to invite, in my neighborhood, only those who are worthy of the cause or those that can keep their fucking, their mouths to themselves, right? Those that, weren't going to pose a threat to what we had going on, because we had a lot going on in the neighborhood at that time. My neighborhood is not a decades and decades and decades old. It was a neighborhood that was founded in the early 90s. So to us, we were always trying to get our foot in what we were about and establish our, our presence. And we were doing it quite extensively in the 90s. So the last thing we would want is someone, walking around. And I predate phones. So there was no phones with cameras for people to walk around and film. But there were the old school VHS camcorders, and we would be damned if someone that wasn't even from the neighborhood was going to be walking around filming. That was Fed work, right? And we just wasn't going to have that. But nowadays I see a lot, and we were taught, that just Northerners were not allowed on camera. Northerners were not allowed to speak to law enforcement. Northerners were not allowed to do a lot of different things. And we stuck true to that because, again, man, you didn't want to get put in a bad position where you were ostracized out the hood, pushed out, or, even worse. How does that do mundo say? Go to Brazil. We didn't want to go. We weren't Brazilian. We weren't trying to learn it. We weren't trying to learn Portuguese. I'm going to tell you guys the truth here. I'm noticing that a lot of these vlogs, the majority of them are in Southern California. I have seen some. I seen one in Hayward the other day. Tripped me out, man. But it was real. That's exactly how they talk in Hayward. That is exactly how the Bay Area moves. The East Bay, that is exactly the way they were walking around and talking about their neighborhood. To me, was blasphemy in what I believe in, or what I believed in back in the days, but it was truth. There was a lot of truth to it, what the guy was saying. Now, as far as in Southern California, I've seen barrios like Bassett, Montiflores. Recently, I seen Santa Bruta, the East Side, twice, right? And these guys that are going into these neighborhoods, obviously they're being allowed, they're being embraced, okay? Now, I remember taking homeboys into my neighborhood, people I met in the youth authority or homeboys that I just came across that were solid dudes. And the homeboys used to question it, like, who is this vato? As long as he's with you and you vouch for him, it's on you if something happens. And I'm gonna tell you guys a little story about bringing someone into my neighborhood. But I'm noticing with these hood vlogs, there's a lot of inner secrets being told. I seen the one where it was El Monte Flores, and it was a lot of youngsters, and the N-word got mentioned, and how they don't say that. It's crazy because you see all these neighborhoods. If you notice in Southern California, most of them say, hey, we don't condone the N-word in our neighborhood. We don't say it. But then you go onto social media and you see a lot of it being used by a lot of guys, not in particular from them neighborhoods, but from a lot of neighborhoods around them, right? I understand, like in South Central LA, the barrios growing up with the blacks in a kind of a more mixed area, you're going to have the N-word being used, just like the Bay Area, because there's a lot of blacks with Norteños. You're going to have the N-word being used by them. I don't condone it, but I understand it, right? To each their own. But when you're looking at the details of what they're saying in these hood vlogs, it's like, man, this is crazy nowadays, putting your hood on blast, telling stories and talking about things in your neighborhood, right? And I'm talking about coming from an active perspective. If you're no longer functioning, as long as the story is about yourself or you were directly involved, that's on you to talk about it, right? To each their own. But when you're talking about, yeah, we don't do this, the word we, my neighborhood, my barrio, that right there can get people in some hot water, because there's some things spoken on in these hood vlogs that shouldn't be spoken on. And believe me, it's like everybody is doing the cops' work for them. A lot of these barrios and these hoods, if they're not under investigation already, they will be in the future. And a lot of these hood vlogs, I feel personally, could lead to some incarceration or some RICOs, because, you're giving the details of past crimes, or you're giving the details on how you're moving. You never want the enemy to know how you're moving. You're putting all your cards on the table. Now, I understand I'm sure there's some of these guys that are seasoned enough to know what to say and what not to say, and they don't speak on certain situations. But a lot of these vloggers that are doing these hood vlogs, they're going to ask some questions that can put people in predicaments, people in situations. That's just how I feel. Now, as far as taking people into your neighborhood, you got to make sure you take the right one in your neighborhood. You got to make sure that he's worthy of your cause. You got to make sure that if something happens right then and there, he's going to keep his fucking mouth shut. When you're bringing civilians into your neighborhood, people that don't play by the same rules, regulations, standards, or procedures and politics of a gang member, what happens if he sees something that he's not supposed to see and decides to testify? That's on you, homie. You brought him there. You allowed him there. You co-signed. He checked in with you. Now it's all on you. I noticed that in a lot of these hood vlogs, there's a lot of youngsters. If you notice, that are the ones walking around. A lot of them has masks on. Thank God for that they're wearing masks. Probably some of them tapeo. But at the same time, a lot of them don't want to identify themselves, want people to be able to identify who they are. Here's the thing. If you have to wear a mask, I'll say it again.
If you have to wear a mask, homie.
If you have to wear a mask to show people your neighborhood and speak on things, then maybe those are things that you should have never spoke on. Maybe those are things you shouldn't be in the picture frame in the first place, right? If you have to do that and cover your identity, you're covering your identity because you know what you're doing is wrong. Now, times have changed because of social media and because of cameras on phones. People are allowed to express themselves in different situations. And I understand, man, these hood vlogs and things like this, the inner workings of the barrios in Southern California and Northern California is a trip. And like I said, it's exciting to finally look into a city and see the inner workings of a neighborhood that you only heard about or you only heard stories about. But there's nothing that I've seen that's like, wow, that VOD is way crazy or way different. To me, it's a bunch of youngsters walking around, very braggadocio, bragging about past incidences or things that have happened in their neighborhood, and everybody, speaking on pride. If you want to do some real vlogs, vlog the man that wakes up every morning and puts his boots on and goes to work and provides for his family. To me, those are the real gangsters, right? It's hard to wake up at 4 or 5 in the morning when your back's hurting, man, and get ready for the day to take care of your family. That's true gangsterism. It's not a bunch of youngsters walking around neighborhoods throwing up gang signs. To me, I've been there. I've done that. Only it's not on camera. Now, I've told stories in the past about things that have happened in my neighborhood, but I was directly involved to some degree. Here's a story I'm going to tell you about bringing someone into the neighborhood that didn't quite work out that well, at least not for him. So I had a homeboy from Salinas. And if you're ever been in Norteño or you know about the Norteño cause, Salas is our version of East LA. It is the hub. It is the Mecca of the Norteño movement. I know a lot of people like to think San Jose is, and shout out to Sanjo. Sanjo definitely has a lot of deep, rich history. Probably some of the oldest barrios in Northern California come from Sanjo. But in Salas, there's a very rich, deep history. And because they were in such affiliation with a certain organization, Salas is seen as the hub or the Mecca, you know, the homeland, the capital city of the Norteño movement. And, you know, I was always real close and real cool with homies from Salas. You know, as you know, Spooky from ELC, Spooky from Casitas. I'm going to be doing a video on him pretty soon, man. That's a good homeboy of mine. And several others, man, that I won't even mention. So me and the homeboy from Salas, we became taitas in the youth authority, meaning we were like close homeboys. That was my ace deuce, my road dog. Where I went, he went. Where he went, I went, man. We made sure that we had each other's back, and we made a pact like, hey, if you get off, I'm going to get off. No questions asked. Even if you're in the wrong, fuck it, homie. Let's go. Let's be wrong together. That was a good homie. And I paroled 2 months before he paroled. And so I was just waiting for his date. And so the trippy part, he was very close with another homeboy from my neighborhood when they were in a different youth authority called OH Close, Owacha, right? I met him in Carl Holton. The homeboy met up with them in OH. And so they became taitas over there. That's kind of how me and him became close. He mentioned my homeboy is a best friend of mine. Boom, boopity boop, boop, boop. We got in. Guard! We're cool, right? And the homeboy paroled 2 months after me, so I was waiting. So I remember that day the homeboy called me. The homeboy from my neighborhood, he was like, hey, the homie's getting out. He got out today. He paroled. Let's go swoop him up in Salas. Let's bring him back to the neighborhood and show him what it is, man, right? Because we had talked all this, oh, my neighborhood's this, my neighborhood's that. We already knew what Salas was about, man. It was dangerous. It was gangster, right? We wanted to show him that Merced was up to par as well on the West. So sure enough, man, it took a lot of, getting homeboys involved we could use their vehicle and taking us out here and gas money, whatever. We ended up eventually finding the homeboy and pulling up on him. I've told the story in the past who he was and how we did that. So we pull up on him, kidnap him, basically get your ass in the car, homie. We're going to the hood. We take him, hook him up with the homegirl. She attacks him righteously, right? Put dope in his plate, put money in his fucking hand, do everything that we felt we should do as active Norteños. We're looking out for him. And this was back before people were saying active and all that. We were just homies. And when we brought him in the hood, we're like, hey, this is the homeboy from Salas. He's a good homie. There was some that I could tell right from the gate, were a little jealous because of all the attention he was getting from the chicks, or because he was from Salas, man, and they knew the get down. There was a lot of homeboys kind of skeptical, but eventually we broke the ice and he was embraced. Oh, man, this is the homie right here. And he partied for a couple of days. Well, what ended up happening was this. I was responsible for bringing him to the neighborhood. I was definitely responsible. And that responsibility, man, I'll never forget, because we were done partying, man. We went back to the pad that we were staying at. And there was 4 homeboys that had the pad and the homegirl that was married to the homeboy. We were staying there. And the homeboy's sister lived right next door. We lived on the top. It was a 4-plex, right? There was 2 apartments up top, a 6-plex. 3 apartments up top, 3 apartments on bottom on M Street in Merced, right? We lived in the middle apartment. And it was dope apartments. There was a lot of dope being sold. It was ghetto, right? The brothers all lived downstairs. It was crazy because on Paru, the Bloods lived downstairs. We lived up top. And my homeboy's sister lived at the very last apartment. And she's good friends of mine. So it got to the part where I didn't have much clothes. You got to understand, I've only been out of Hawaii 2 months. Don't got fucking nothing to wear. I'm wearing the same old thermals that I'm still wearing. And I needed to wash clothes. And the homegirl was going to go take the clothes to a laundromat. So I took all my shit. I got lucky. As soon as I walked out of the house to go take these clothes, now, mind you, the homeboy from Salas is chilling at the pad. We just partied for 2 days straight. He's trying to sleep off a good one, right? And as I go to take the clothes over there, boom, task hits. They hit. Homeboys jump up. They start flushing shit, running around. Well, the homeboy ends up getting caught at the homeboy from Salas. He's only been out of the youth authority for 2 days. He catches a violation. He goes right back. Dope was found in the house. They charged him with whatever. I was like, damn, man. I felt responsible even to this day. Like, damn, the homeboy only lasted a couple. At least it was a nice 2 days. You know what I mean? He was doing his thing, right? But here he goes right back. I got lucky because I just happened to go, like I said, take my laundry to the homegirl when they hit, and she said, like, back up. I was hiding in the closet for reals with a whole bunch of dirty laundry on top of me, stinking like a motherfucker. But I got away. When the raid was done, they did knock on the homegirl's door. She was like, "Oh, that's my brothers, and I don't know what the fuck they got going on." They left her alone. They seen her kids. That was that, right? And I was hiding in the closet, like I said, with a pair of dirty calzones on my head, stinking like a motherfucker. looking like Debo. Right? It was all bad. But the aftermath is I came out, they're like, damn, they took this homeboy, that homeboy. A couple homeboys got, to stay that weren't involved, but just were in passing. And it was all bad. The homeboy got locked up and I felt bad. I wrote him. I was like, damn, homie, Spencer, we brought you over here. You didn't even get a chance to kick it with your family. I feel indebted to you. He was like, it's all good. Shit happens. This wasn't like someone told or anything. But the fact is that we brought him to the neighborhood and we weren't able to maintain his safety and security. We weren't able to take care of him like we said we could. And I never did that again because I felt like if I brought someone in the hood, some outsider from a different city, I brought family members like Ricky came and I brought other people. But as far as like bringing a homeboy that I did time that I had like super respect for, I never did that because I didn't want to be responsible. I felt bad, but it's the truth. Now with these hood vlogs, these guys are allowing these civilians or whoever these guys are to come and film their neighborhood. Now, I'll tell you right now, if the homeboy would have had a camera and he'd have broke it out and like, hey, bro, I want to take pictures, we'd have been like, Charlie, bro, this is our neighborhood. And we'd have felt that I wouldn't even ask that question to someone else because that's the way we were laced. It wasn't the right thing to do. You don't overstep in someone's neighborhood. You're a guest. You're welcome. I know there's going to be people in the DMs and the people in the messages that are like, that hood don't belong to you. That belongs to this and that. Look, I don't give a fuck about all that. That's how we felt. That's how we rocked. Now, with what's going on now, can it get people caught up? Can it get people in tricky situations? Well, I've already seen videos where words that we're saying were misconstrued. Shout out 16 to Life, but when the El Monte Flores hood vlog video came out, these kids were talking about and I say kids because they're youngsters, right? They were talking about the N-word and how they don't use it. And then someone said NK and all this. And man, they got blown out of proportion. And next thing you know, people, even myself, are making content based off of that. So, some of these hood vlogs can capture crimes that happen. I've seen hood vlogs in the past because this ain't just new. It's just becoming a new trend as far as within the California areas, right? I've seen them in Chicago. I've seen hood vlogs in Atlanta, Florida, where actual crime is committed on camera and shown to the general public. It's just amazing to think what type of heads would roll if that shit was to happen in the barrios in California. You never know what could happen. People like attention. People like to play the game. So there might be, things that transpire on camera, on film. And if you're the one putting it out there for people to see, then you're liable, man. And you're going to get put in a situation where you might have to ultimately testify to what you've seen. And that's just chaos. As far as these hood vlogs, are they good? Not really. They're not good for nothing, really. I mean, like I said, if you notice, you don't see a lot of veteranos on these hood vlogs. You might see one or two in the neighborhood that get caught off like, oh, shit, right? What's going on here? Hey, is this cool? Hey, fucking, hey, I'm from the east side, right? You might see it. What's up, homie? I'll do it. Can I do my hair on camera? Can I do it on camera? Right there. You might see some. You'll see a lot of the OGs that are still in the hood that still play the shenanigans and games. The real OGs that are really doing it are not going to be seen on camera or want any type of affiliation or anything to do. You'll see them like this, right? You'll see that because they know better, but it's becoming a trend and it's becoming apparent to me that it's not going to slow down, not even close. And, it's not hating that I'm doing, man. The content creator found his niche, found his lane. If he's allowed to go in these neighborhoods, I'm not jealous. I'm not hating on him because he does this. I'm just saying he needs to be aware that a lot of these things he's capturing on film and some of these things he's showing, there are dudes from them neighborhoods and barrios that don't condone it. And I'm sure could feel slighted by it. Especially if you have, say, someone who's from a barrio. Take, for instance, I'm from a neighborhood, right? And my brother passed away or got shot on a corner. And, that's very sentimental to me. That means something to me and my family. We'd rather forget about that. Never forget, or never forgive, but forget about it, right? And you got little young homies, man, that weren't even around back then. They're talking about their father's era or their father's era, right? And they're talking, oh, this is where the homie died right here. Boom, he got blasted by the enemigos or this, and that. And I might be feeling some type of way. Hey, homie, that's my brother's memorial or that's my family shit. We don't want that spoken on. We let that go in the past. There's just certain situations like that could come up that are detrimental to your safety and security because I might feel offended by that. Yeah, but the homie said it was cool to do a vlog. Yeah, homie, fuck your vlog. Spell it, homie. Right? And I don't know. That's just how I feel. I feel there's no good things can come out of it. But it's a trend nowadays. It's happening. I want to know what you guys think. Do you think these hood vlogs are inspiring or very informational? I just see a bunch of youngsters acting cool. And actually it makes the raza and the brothers and whoever are doing this, makes us look like fools, like Jimmy the Foo. Yeah, my hood, homie, was established back then. Half of these guys that are doing these hood vlogs, the truth, no disrespect, the realness, don't even know the history of their neighborhood. I know more about their neighborhood than they do, and they're walking around in it. It's fucking upsetting. It's crazy, and it's something that nowadays it shows you how watered down things are and how the world is changing. I'm sure there's a lot of vatos that are in prison doing all day, have made the ultimate sacrifice, watching their hood. They might feel, oh yeah, it's the little homie, oh yeah, my hood. But then when he's like talking about cases that they were involved in or things they done, they're like, hey, well, hold up, homie. That was me, eh? Hey, I was good. He's talking about me, eh? But hey, fuck, I'm trying to get in the pill. I'm trying to get in the pill. All right. I'm just saying, let me know what you guys think. With that being said, I got content giving content piggyback rights today. I'm in that mood. I'm in that zone. Let's go on the other channel and laugh a little bit. Let's keep it serio right here. The gun.